Okay, good afternoon, and thank you again for joining me. I will be, let me go ahead and also present. Where's the present button? Okay, I will be unpacking the TEKs. The specific TEK will be mentioned later. I did choose a TEK that is at the second grade level because I am looking at third grade data that is showing trends, especially in the ELL, English Language Learner students, of these students particularly not, I guess, meeting requirements at the third grade level math subject. So here we have 91% of students that are approaching, and that of course means they're not at grade level. 42% are at meets, and that is lower than all the district, state, and total, or I'm sorry, school level, district level, and state level for our population, our subpopulation of ELL students. And of course, masters at 14%. And I compare this data on the right to the entire school of our campus for the Alamo City, which is a part, of course, PSGA. And that is 72% of our ELL population, ESL population, is at approaches. 39%, which of course is also below, and this is all grade levels mashed together, not just third grade. And of course, 11% is masters, or at the level of masters, and that is, of course, below the entire level of district, campus, and of course, the state level. So I wanted to target fundamental areas of math instruction at the second grade level. And of course, this is building upon prior knowledge of kinder, first, and what they are learning already at the second grade level. And I'm pretty sure people are like, well, why do you choose that particular TEK? And my answer to that would be to establish foundational principles in mathematics to promote success at the third grade level, which is the first year that they are being tested, of course. So I feel like building those principles and the foundation at the second grade level is key to promoting success. So as far as unpacking a TEK, what we need to do initially at the beginning phases is identify and define components of a TEK, which is the standard, and is of course important for the expectation to be that not only should the student be able to demonstrate these knowledge, not the knowledge acquired, but it is also very important that they display evidence of skills obtained during these lessons. So the foundation that is being built during this, while the students are learning this, it is important that at the curriculum level, that the curriculum is developed aligned to the TEK. And of course, when the teachers are designing their lessons, they must align their lessons to the standard. And of course, when you are unpacking the TEK, we must go, I guess, you're going from concrete, abstract, which is this the lesson I didn't even start my timer. It's the lesson at a fundamental level, and then you're moving to a concrete level. And of course, when you're unpacking the TEK, you move from the strand, which is you're going from broad to more specific. And the strand is very broad, and then you go a little bit more into detail with the particular knowledge and skill statement, and then you go into the very, very specific, which is the student expectation, or the SEs, which is, like I said, it goes from broad to specific expectation. Now, the student expectation is including the cognitive band and the context in which how the knowledge is acquired and applied to situational and social interactions that are relevant. That's the very, very important key word, that is relevant to the student, so that they eventually learn these particular subjects. And of course, what we do is we identify verbs that are embedded in these statements, in the knowledge and skills statement. And it of course means what the student is doing to acquire that knowledge and or skills and identify what actions the student should be able to perform at the end of the lesson. So that, of course, goes into the end of what we unpack the TEKs for, which is to build. And of course, the last stage is the delivery of the lesson to the students. And I chose TEK 2.5 AB, which is second grade mathematics. And this is particularly important for numbers and operations. And that is what the strand is. Of course, mathematics is the subject. The particular knowledge and skills statement for TEK 2.5 is that the student will apply the mathematical process standards to determine the value of coins in order to solve monetary transactions. And the student expectation at the end of the lesson, and of course, they've already been doing some of these skills through first grade and, of course, kinder. And in second grade, though, it is now important that they determine the value of coins up to $1. And B, section B states that they use the cent symbol, dollar sign, and the decimal point to name the value of a collection of coins. Now, I'm sure some people will ask, well, why that particular TEK? I'll answer that right now again. But now to identify the verbiage of TEK 2.5. So the verbs, of course, are applies, determines, and solves. Now, what it is that the student is expected to do is apply mathematical process standards. What is to be determined? The value of these coins. What is the student expected to solve? Monetary transactions. And I think it's like around the first grade level, second grade level. I know my daughter's doing it right now. She has a little play set where she has a little coin thing, a little where she can put the numbers in and stuff, and she'll take food to people, and we give her the money, and she brings us back like change. She is 2, and she is doing this already, and it's just like blowing my mind. So of course we use this to build the lesson, and we determine our every classroom is different, so learning styles for every classroom, of course, will determine the differentiation of instruction for each class. And of course, we are addressing specific learning needs for individual students. And this is, of course, why I chose this TEK in particular, because we're building upon prior knowledge, which is key to scaffolding instruction. And at the second grade level, since it's the year before they're tested, I feel like it's a very, very crucial time period in these students' lives. Because it's like they're starting to wake up. They're not so sleepyheads anymore. They're not, the blank look on their faces is everything's starting to click now in the second grade level. You see that in the first grade level too, but it's just like they're starting to wake up. And of course, in kindergarten, what they are teaching at that particular level, the TEK is K.4, and that is personal financial literacy. And the student applies mathematical process to manage one's financial resources effectively for lifetime financial security. And they're teaching that at a kinder level. The students at that particular level are probably not grasping those concepts, but at the first grade level, like I said, they've already heard some of this vocabulary before. So what they are applying at the first grade level is the mathematical process to identify these coins and how much they are worth. And of course, the relationship among them to recognize the need for monetary transactions. I think we could all relate to the fact that money, no matter what language we're speaking, and especially when we're talking about ELL students, that's kind of like a universal language. And when you're talking about mathematics, that is also a language that you don't need to be on the same page. Numbers are numbers. Any questions so far, guys? I can't see y'all. Are y'all still there? Y'all still there?
Yes.
I see. No. Okay. I was like, because with this, I have to. Same with my students. If I'm presenting something, I have to go back and click. Are y'all there? Y'all are so quiet. Okay. So, of course, applying this prior learned knowledge to future knowledge that will be, of course, learned throughout third grade, fourth grade, and that has to do with money. But we're talking about at the second grade level. What are we doing at that particular grade level? Well, we're subtracting. So they're using other skills in mathematics with the application of money. They're, of course, adding, grouping together like coins. They're skip counting by fives, 5, 10, 25. Of course, by 1, 2. Of course, they're adding and subtracting numbers between 1 and 100, which is, of course, something at that grade level they are expected to do. And, of course, you're beginning to develop concepts or fundamentals of fractions. So like 1 penny equals 1 dime, or 10 pennies, I'm sorry, equal 1 dime. So that, of course, is introductory levels of fractions. And that's what I was putting here, that 1 out of 100 pennies, 4 groups of 25 cents equals $1, all of which equal $1. So it's kind of like a multi-level TEK that has implications that are not just dealing with coins. That's why I felt it's such an important TEK. And of course, you have the level of manipulatives of tangible objects, which is excellent for all students, not just our ELL population. And of course, real world applications for this TEK. I think we can all relate to that. Now, best practices to incorporate for ELL students in the classroom, and not only for the classroom, but for to build the relationship between parents. Because I said that in one of my other papers, that if the student doesn't have the support at home, I think we all know that the success is going to be a little bit harder to come by. So best practices for these ELL students, of course, were scaffolding and activating prior knowledge, activities like think, pair, share, to practice the use of language in their new, the language they are trying to obtain and master, and extended processing time, which is something that other students also receive, providing language, vocabulary, images in both language with visuals and manipulatives, the use of their native language with peer support, and of course through ELL grouping with advanced high paired up with a beginner, or advanced high intermediate pairs and advanced intermediate pairs. And my suggestions for best practices to bridge the gap between households and teacher, and building those relationships through Arahu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And the reason I only went with 4 and 5 over here on the best practices for in-class was because I wanted to use what Bambrick Santoyo says is like bite-size. You keep it bite-size, it's enough for you to absorb and not feel overwhelmed. So through the funds of knowledge was an example of that is using culturally relevant activities that are done in the home environment to connect on a personal level with each student. And that, of course, goes back to culturally relevant material that you're using. And, of course, being conscious of culturally and ethnically different practices that, you know, we all might live in the same place down here in the Valley, but we all know that every household and their practices are different. Now, of course, with communication between families to bridge that language barrier, we must communicate linguistically with these diverse and have open forms of communication with parents, of course, through letters that go home, constant phone calls, the use of Class Dojo. I think we could all relate to that. Home visits. We had to do home visits a couple years ago when I was up in Belton. I was at the high school level, and sometimes that was not pretty because that was sometimes a very sticky situation with that sometimes. And of course, welcoming them into your classrooms, welcoming parents and getting them to volunteer, which the more we have parents on campus, the better, because they are active participants. And that's my next one, seeking and extending assistance, promoting parents to volunteer, attending school meetings, utilizing programs available offered through school districts. I know that is my last slide, but I know our school, so I'm switching over and I can see you guys. Our school district offers like kind of like incentive programs, you know, for students who have their parents and come and volunteer a certain amount of hours. They're able to get certifications through welding. They're able to get ESL classes through volunteering. I think you have to volunteer a minimum of 15 hours per semester. And then you're able to take these certification courses. You're able to get citizenship courses. So for a lot of parents out there, this gives them the reason to be more active in their child's lives. And for ESL students and for any students in particular, I think that's very, very important. So that concludes my presentation for today. Do y'all have any questions? Any comments? Anything y'all want to add? Or
what you were mentioning for the parents, is that for parent volunteers? Is that something that the district does? PSJ, you mentioned?
Yes,
wow,
ma'am.
that's really neat to get parents involved.
It is, and it's so good to know that when you see a student that has, you know, maybe trouble at home, and that's the reason that's leading to performance issues in the classroom, and it ties back to something that's going on with a family member and or their direct parents, it really does help when you have that connection at home. And it really helps the student in gaining the confidence to perform, because a lot of the times it's just the lack of confidence. They don't have that support at home. They don't have the support they feel probably in the classroom. And it's just like they come in here with this level of confidence that is just like right at the ground level. And it's like, well, we got to build on that. And when they know that their parents care, they know that their teacher cares, they're able to open up. And if it's the language barrier that's the issue, well, we have, you know, in-class ESL programs that are here, and we're trying to get these students to open up. And especially at the lower grade levels, like at the second grade level that I'm particularly talking about, that's when these students need to start coming out of their shells. That's when they need to start waking up. And of course, right before the third grade level, which is the tested level. But it is, to me, I work directly with second grade students, and it's the students that I started working with now are in third grade, and you can just see that by year, just them like blooming, you know, mentally, and they're like, you already know in first grade, it's like, okay, well, they got it. And then you see other kids just like, boom, it's like almost like a light turns on from one day to the next or week to week. But yes, I will go ahead and end that now. Let me go ahead and stop recording. Thank you guys so much. I don't know how long that was.